In the cold silence of space, the great station haven's rest floated between the stars. Its metal walls glowed faintly with blue light. Engines hummed quietly, steady and calm, like a giant heartbeat echoing through the void. From far away the station looked peaceful, but inside, something dangerous was about to begin. Katie Miller sat alone in a small office near the communications wing. The soft green glow of her computer screen lit her face. She was young, only 24, with tired eyes that showed she had not slept much. Around her, everything was silent. Only the quiet clicking of her keyboard filled the room. She worked as a communication specialist for the human diplomatic mission. It was not a glamorous job, but she loved it. She understood languages, codes, and signals better than most people. In 6 months on the station, she had learned to read alien transmissions that even machines failed to translate. She liked solving puzzles, and tonight she had found one that terrified her. Lines of alien text moved across her screen, glowing in strange green letters. To anyone else they would look like random symbols, but to Katie they made sense, and what she read made her heart tighten. It started with a single phrase. Resolution 847, emergency vote in 3 days. She frowned and scrolled further. The next lines were worse. Human expansion threatens council peace. Action required. Katie leaned closer, eyes wide. Her hands froze on the keyboard. For a few seconds she could only stare at the words. Her coffee, cold and forgotten, sat untouched beside her. For 2 years, humans had been part of the Galactic Council. 12 species working together to keep peace in the galaxy. Earth had thought it was safe now, a respected member among the stars. But this message, it spoke of fear. It spoke of attack. Katie quickly began decoding more of the transmission. The Council's private network was supposed to be unbreakable, but she had cracked it months ago, working late nights when everyone else was asleep. She never thought she'd find something like this. Each new line made her feel colder. Human colonies spreading too fast. Technological progress alarming. Military potential unacceptable. Preemptive strike necessary. Her fingers trembled. She scrolled faster, hoping she had read it wrong, but the truth was clear. The Council was planning to attack humanity. Katie whispered softly to herself, "No, they can't do this." She looked around the empty room as if expecting someone to appear and tell her it was a mistake. But no one came. The air felt heavy. The station was quiet, too quiet. For a moment she thought about the people on Earth, the colonies scattered across the stars, families, children, explorers. None of them knew what was coming. Katie bit her lip and stood up. Her legs felt weak, but her mind was sharp. She knew what she had to do. She had to warn Earth. She grabbed a small data drive and copied everything. The messages, the hidden council orders, the vote schedule. Then she hurried down the long metallic corridor toward the communications center. The halls were empty, the lights dim. The echo of her footsteps followed her like a shadow. Somewhere far away she heard a low vibration, maybe a ship docking, maybe just the sound of the engines. Her heart beat faster with every step. When she reached the communications room, the doors opened with a soft hiss. The walls were lined with blinking consoles and glowing screens. This was where humans sent encrypted reports back to Earth. Messages that traveled faster than light using quantum relays. Katie sat down quickly, fingers flying over the keys. Her breathing was fast now but steady enough to type. Priority 1 message, Earth Defense Command, she wrote. Discovered Council Resolution 847. Vote scheduled in 3 days. Resolution authorizes preemptive strike on human colonies. Recommend immediate preparation and diplomatic response. She attached the secret files. Her finger hovered over the send button. And then, the lights went out. The room went black. The soft hum of the station changed to a sharp mechanical buzz. A few seconds later, the red emergency lights turned on, washing everything in crimson. The shadows stretched across the walls like living things. Katie froze. Her screen flickered, then went dark. She could hear her own breathing now, quick and uneven. Then footsteps. Heavy, steady, getting closer. Someone was coming down the hallway. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She looked around, searching for a place to hide, but there was nowhere. The room had one door. One way in, one way out. The door slid open with a hiss. 3 figures stepped inside. Katie recognized them instantly. The one in the center was Hierarch Zakar, the leader of the Valari Empire, one of the most powerful species in the Council. His tall, silver body reflected the red light. His black eyes were cold like glass. Behind him stood 2 Council security guards in heavy armor. Communications Specialist Miller, Zakar said. His voice was low and mechanical, almost emotionless. "Step away from the console." Katie's throat felt dry. Her hand hovered over the keyboard. She could just press one button. The message would send. Earth would know everything. The guards took one step forward. The sound of their boots echoed like thunder in the small room. Katie's mind raced. She thought of her home, of Earth's blue sky, of her parents. She thought of the billions of lives that would vanish if she failed. Her hand shook. Zakhar's voice grew sharper. "Do not test my patience, human." Katie looked up at him, her eyes full of fear and defiance. Her finger moved toward the keyboard. The red lights flickered once. And then, everything went black. Darkness swallowed everything. For a few seconds there was no sound, only the soft hum of emergency power trying to come back online. Then, faintly, Katie Miller heard her own heartbeat, fast and uneven, echoing in her chest like the ticking of a dying clock. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone. Her computer screen was black, her hands still frozen above the keyboard. She blinked, trying to see through the shadows, but the red lights didn't return this time. Only darkness remained. Then, a sharp sound. A hand grabbed her wrist. Katie gasped and pulled back, but the grip was strong, cold, and unyielding. A bright white light flared, a portable torch. It illuminated Hierarch Zakhar's face, silver and expressionless. His black eyes reflected the beam like two mirrors. "Your access has been terminated," he said calmly. "Step away." Katie's voice trembled. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a communication officer. I have clearance." Zakhar tilted his head slightly, almost like a machine analyzing data. "Clearance," he repeated, his voice sharp, "does not include decoding council secrets." The torchlight swung toward the console. The screen blinked once, a faint spark of blue. For just a moment, Katie saw the message indicator. Transmission sent, 87%. Her eyes widened. It went through, almost. Zakhar noticed her expression. His hand moved fast, pressing a button on his wristband. The console sparked and went dead. Smoke rose from the circuits. "Transmission interrupted," one of the guards reported. His voice was low and metallic through the helmet speaker. Katie's heart sank. 87%. Not enough. Earth would get part of it, but not everything. She tried to speak again, but the guard seized her arm. Zakhar stepped closer until his tall figure blocked the red glow behind him. His voice softened, but it was colder than before. "You humans are still new to this council," he said. "You should have learned when to stay silent." He looked at her as if she were an insect, a small, curious thing that didn't know it had angered giants. Katie clenched her jaw. "You're afraid of us," she said quietly. That made him pause. His black eyes narrowed. "Afraid?" "Yes," she said. Her voice was small but steady. "You call us dangerous, unpredictable, but you're the ones planning to destroy us before we even defend ourselves. That's not control. That's fear." For the first time, Zakhar's expression changed. It wasn't anger, it was disgust. "You talk like you understand the balance of this galaxy," he said slowly. "But your kind does not belong here. You spread too fast. You fight too easily. You build weapons before peace. The council will stop you before your chaos spreads further." He gestured toward the guards. "Take her." Katie struggled as they pulled her away from the console. Her boots scraped against the metal floor. She twisted, trying to break free, but the armor was too strong. Her breath came fast and sharp. "Zakhar, please just listen. The council is making a mistake." He didn't look at her. "The mistake," he said, "was letting humans in." The guards dragged her down the hallway. The sound of their boots echoed through the corridor, heavy and rhythmic. She could see the stars through the observation window, cold, distant, beautiful. For a moment she thought about Earth, the blue oceans, the cities, the people who had trusted her to keep them safe. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them away. She wouldn't let these aliens see her cry. They locked her in a small containment cell, metal walls, a single light above, no window. The door sealed shut with a low hiss. Katie sat on the floor, breathing hard. The silence pressed around her like a heavy blanket. She tried to calm herself, to think. Did the message reach Earth? Maybe not fully, but maybe enough. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Please. Someone see it. Someone understand." Meanwhile, outside her cell, Zakhar stood in the main corridor, speaking with another council officer through a holographic link. "She discovered too much," said the officer, a tall reptilian creature from the hegemony. "We cannot risk exposure." "The transmission?" Zakhar asked. "Partially sent," the officer replied. It reached the outer relay network before we shut it down. The humans might recover fragments. Zakhar's eyes darkened. That will be enough to make them suspicious. They must not act before the vote. What do you suggest? Zakhar's voice turned flat. We make an example. Hours passed. The station drifted silently through space. No one in the human section had seen Katie since she left her office. Ambassador Hayes, unaware of what had happened, received a short message from a council security team. Your communication officer is under investigation for data breach. He frowned, confused, but before he could ask for details, the council sent another message. A formal order demanding silence until the investigation was over. Something felt wrong, but he obeyed. The council was not to be questioned. Inside her cell, Katie could hear distant mechanical noises, engines, doors, footsteps. Then suddenly they stopped. The light above her flickered once. The door slid open. 2 guards stood there again. Behind them, Zakhar. He didn't speak for a while. He just looked at her as if memorizing her face. Finally he said quietly, "You shouldn't have interfered." Katie raised her head. "And you shouldn't have lied." Zakhar's expression didn't change. He pressed something on his wristband. The guard stepped forward. Katie stood. "If you do this," she said, "Earth will find out. They'll come for me. For all of us." Zakhar's voice was almost gentle. "We know." The door shut. A blinding flash of light filled the cell. Then silence. In the command center, a Valari officer turned from his console. "The human envoy has been terminated," he said simply. Zakhar closed his eyes. "Good. Send a report to the council." But far across the void, deep inside a human listening post orbiting Mars, a faint signal blinked on a dark screen. An incomplete message, broken and damaged but still alive. Transmission received, 87%. Source, Haven's Rest Station. Status, urgent. And somewhere on Earth, a warning began to wake. The cold light of dawn touched Earth's horizon when the signal arrived. Inside the Earth Defense Command headquarters, alarms began to blink across multiple screens. The technicians at the communications division looked at each other, confused. "Is that from Haven's Rest?" one asked. The supervisor leaned closer to his console. "Yes, or what's left of it." The message was fragmented, cut in the middle. Some words repeated, others vanished into static. But one thing was clear. It came with Priority 1 clearance signed by Katie Miller of the Human Diplomatic Mission. The room grew quiet as the transmission played. "Council. Resolution 847, vote, attack human colonies, 9 species, prepare defense." Then silence. The message ended abruptly, followed by the soft sound of static. For a long moment no one spoke. Then the supervisor turned to his assistant. "Get this to command immediately." Within the hour, Admiral Serena Holt, commander of Earth's Defense Fleet, stood in the briefing room. A dozen high-ranking officers and government officials filled the space, their faces pale under the harsh white lights. On the screen behind her, the damaged transmission replayed again and again. Each time the room felt colder. "So," said one general slowly, "the council plans to attack us?" Admiral Holt's voice was steady but tight. "That's what the message says. We don't know when. But if this is true," she paused, glancing at the frozen image of Katie's ID tag on the screen, "then we may already be out of time." A diplomat at the table frowned. "We need confirmation before accusing the entire council." Another replied sharply, "If this is a hoax, why was the Envoy signal cut off mid-transmission?" The room fell silent again. Admiral Holt finally spoke. "We'll contact Haven's Rest immediately." She gave the order. But hours later no answer came. On the station, deep in orbit between systems, Haven's Rest was quiet. Too quiet. The human section's lights had been turned off. Council security forces had sealed every door, claiming there was an internal malfunction. No one saw Katie again. Ambassador Charles Hayes tried to reach her, but his messages were ignored. When he demanded to speak with the council, they postponed the meeting again and again. By the 4th day he realized something terrible had happened. Back on Earth, Admiral Holt received a coded transmission from one of the colonies, New Carthage, near the edge of council territory. Unusual fleet movements detected near our border. Multiple unknown ships on long-range scanners. The Admiral stared at the message for a long time. She didn't move. Finally she turned to her second officer. "Begin silent mobilization. No announcements, no broadcasts. I want every ship ready." "Yes, ma'am." The officer hurried out. Holt looked back at the frozen image of Katie on the screen, the young woman with quiet eyes who had sent a warning before vanishing into the dark. "Whoever did this," she whispered, "they think we'll stay quiet? They don't know us yet." 12 hours later, the Galactic Council met in their grand chamber, a massive hall of silver and glass, with banners of 12 species glowing under the soft light of distant stars. Hierarch Zakar stood in the center, his expression calm, his voice cold. "The investigation of the human envoy is complete," he said. "Her actions endangered galactic stability. The Council must act before humanity becomes a threat to peace." The delegates murmured in agreement. "Resolution 847 is now open for final vote," announced the chair of the Council. One by one, glowing lights appeared above each delegate's desk. Green for yes. Red for no. 9 lights turned green almost instantly. 3 remained undecided. Zakar turned to them. His tone was calm but his words sharp. "You've seen what humans are capable of. You know how fast they spread, how quickly they build weapons. We can end this before it becomes war." The hall grew silent. Finally the lights turned green. All 12. The Council's decision was made. Resolution 847, approved. Back on Earth, a hidden network of satellites detected a sudden burst of activity across the Council's borders. Fleets moving. Ships leaving their docks. Within the Defense Command, warning lights flashed. "Admiral Holt, incoming transmissions from 5 colonies," an officer shouted. "They're reporting unknown vessels approaching." No response to hails. Holt's expression didn't change. Her voice was low and calm. "Bring the fleet online. Activate Aegis Protocol." The officer hesitated. "That means total lockdown. No contact with the Council." "I know," she said. "Do it." Far above Earth, in the orbiting command platform Vigilant Dawn, hundreds of ships came alive. Engines roared to life. Weapons powered up. Across the stars, Earth's colonies began to prepare, silent, focused, waiting. Humanity did not shout. It did not threaten. It waited. Because humans had learned something over centuries of war. Anger was a weapon best kept quiet until the moment it struck. Meanwhile, in the dark corners of the galaxy, rumors began to spread. That a human envoy had been killed. That Earth was building something massive, something unseen before. Zakar ignored them. He looked out from the balcony of the Council chamber at the distant stars. "Let them prepare," he murmured. "By the time they act, it will be over." But deep in the black between the stars, far from any Council scanners, humanity was already moving. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, all united by one thing. Katie Miller's final message. In the silence of space, her name became a whisper. And soon that whisper would become a storm. The colony of New Carthage floated under twin suns, a beautiful world of silver rivers and wide green plains. It had taken humans only 10 years to turn it from empty rock into a thriving city of 500,000 people. Towers rose from the surface, and huge glass domes protected farms that stretched for miles. For 2 years the people of New Carthage had lived in peace. They had heard stories about the Galactic Council, about alien politics, about tension, but those were things that happened far away, light years from home. Until that morning. At 6:40 local time, the colony's sky darkened. 12 massive ships appeared in orbit, black, angular, and silent. Their hulls bore the mark of the Valari Empire, one of the most powerful members of the Council. The first people who saw them thought it was a diplomatic visit. They were wrong. Without warning, beams of blue light cut through the clouds. The first impact hit the outer communication tower. A second strike vaporized a cargo bay. By the time the alarm sounded, the colony was already burning. In the control center, Governor Mira Kane shouted orders. "Activate the shields. Get every civilian to the underground shelters." Her voice was calm but sharp. Around her, technicians worked frantically. The ground shook as explosions echoed above them. "Shield generators online," someone yelled. A thin blue dome flickered into place around the colony, shimmering against the red sky. But everyone knew it wouldn't hold for long. "Transmit distress call to Earth." Mira ordered. "Already sent," a young officer replied, his voice shaking. No response yet. Another explosion. The room shook. Lights flickered. Outside, alien ships descended lower, their weapons glowing. The bombardment stopped for a few seconds, then resumed, heavier than before. The Valari didn't speak. They didn't give warnings or demands. They were here to destroy. On Earth, Admiral Serena Holt stood in the command center, watching the incoming live feed from New Carthage. The images were chaotic. Flames, panic, people running through smoke-filled streets. She didn't blink. She didn't look away. How long before our ships reached them? She asked quietly. 8 hours, Admiral, replied the officer beside her. By then? I know, Holt said. She took a slow breath, her hands clasped behind her back. Send evacuation drones. Every available one. Yes, ma'am. The officer hesitated. Admiral, the Council will see that as an act of military response. Holt's eyes were cold. Then let them. Hours later, as the skies of New Carthage burned, hundreds of unmanned drones appeared from the void. They flew faster than any Council vessel, darting through enemy fire. The Valari ships turned their weapons toward them, but the drones weren't armed. They dove through the atmosphere, opening their cargo bays to release thousands of escape pods. Each pod carried civilians. Each one dropped like a falling star into space, away from the burning planet. For every 100 that escaped, 10 were destroyed, but it was enough. Thousands lived because of it. Governor Mira watched from the control room as her city collapsed. Her eyes were red from smoke and tears, but her voice was steady when she sent her final message. This is Governor Mira Kane of New Carthage. We are under attack by Council fleets. No warning. No negotiation. If this message reaches Earth, tell them humanity remembers. The connection ended in static. When the feed finally went dark, the room at Earth Defense Command was silent. Everyone waited for Admiral Holt to speak. She didn't, not for a long time. Then she said softly, "Get me the Prime Council of Earth." A few minutes later, the leaders of Earth's nations appeared as holograms around the table. Faces from every continent, united under one flag, Terra United. Holt looked at them, her face unreadable. The Council has attacked a human world. We have confirmation of civilian casualties in the thousands. I recommend activating the Erebus Protocol. Murmurs spread across the room. The Erebus Protocol was humanity's darkest plan, a project built in secret, known only to a few. Are you sure? Asked one of the counselors. This could mean full-scale war. Holt met his gaze. It already is. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chamber, Hierarch Zakar received a report from the Valari fleet. The colony has been neutralized, the commander said. Minimal resistance. Casualties, significant. Zakar's expression didn't change. Good. Broadcast the result to all council members. Let them see what happens when humans defy us. But as he turned away from the hologram, one of his aides hesitated. Sir, the aide said quietly, we've intercepted strange activity from Earth's outer stations. Power readings beyond expected levels. And multiple deep space launches, no transponder codes. Zakar frowned. Launches? What kind? Unknown, sir. They're large. He thought for a moment, then waved his hand dismissively. Probably evacuation efforts. The humans panic easily. He didn't know he was wrong. Far beyond Earth's orbit, in the shadow of Jupiter's moon Callisto, a massive object came to life. Hidden beneath the ice and rock, a fleet began to awaken, silent, dark, and patient. The Erebus fleet. No public record mentioned its existence. It was built from stolen alien designs, human engineering, and pure determination. Ships made for one purpose, to end wars before they began. Inside the lead ship, the Erebus Prime, Admiral Holt's second-in-command, Captain Isaac Rains, watched as reactors powered up. Rows of lights flickered to life across the dark hulls. Hundreds of ships, stealth cruisers, carriers, drones, and something new, the Vanguard-class dreadnoughts, each one capable of wiping out entire fleets. Rains stood in silence. Status report, he said finally. All systems green, replied an officer. Fleet standing by. Rains looked out at the dark ships, his face hard. Then it begins. Back in the council chamber, a messenger rushed to Zakar's side. Sir, urgent report. One of our long-range outposts just went dark. We've lost contact with Outpost Theta 9. Zakar turned sharply. What do you mean lost contact? No signals, no distress call. It just vanished. For the first time, a shadow of doubt crossed the alien leader's face. He looked out at the stars where the faint glimmer of Earth shone in the distance. And deep inside, something cold twisted in his chest. Because for the first time, the Council's most powerful leader began to feel something he had never known before. Fear. For 3 days, the galaxy thought humanity had gone quiet. The Council's propaganda networks flooded the stars with their message, that the human colony of New Carthage had been destroyed to maintain order. They claimed Earth would protest, maybe send angry diplomats. Then, eventually humanity would surrender just as so many others had before them. But humanity didn't speak. No speeches. No broadcasts. No threats. Only silence. And on the fourth day the silence became something else. At the edge of Valari-controlled space, a mining station detected a gravitational anomaly. The readings didn't match anything known. Not a black hole, not a jump gate, not even a natural rift. Could be sensor error, said the technician, leaning closer. Or, before he could finish, every screen turned white. The outpost sensors caught a single frame, a shadow sliding through the dark, huge and angular. Then came the flash. The mining station vanished. No distress call. No wreckage. Nothing left but a silent cloud of glowing dust drifting where it had been. Within hours it happened again. Then again. Outposts. Patrol fleets. Listening stations. One by one they disappeared, no warning, no trace. The council called emergency meetings. Panic spread like wildfire. Admiral Vesh of the Valari demanded answers. Who is attacking us? Which empire dares this? The answer came 12 hours later in a single transmission. A holographic signal appeared across council channels, grainy, monochrome, unmistakably human. An unfamiliar woman appeared, dressed in black, Earth insignia on her shoulder. Her voice was calm, flat, emotionless. This is Admiral Serena Holt of the United Earth Defense Command. 3 days ago the Galactic Council authorized an unprovoked strike against a civilian colony. You murdered our people, our children. We did not come to negotiate. We did not come for revenge. We came to make sure it never happens again. The message ended. Then one by one, every council ship in the Valari sector lost contact. At the council chamber, panic turned to disbelief. Reports flooded in, fleets gone dark, stations destroyed, planetary defense grids offline. How are they doing this? Shouted one delegate. We can't even detect their ships. They're using stealth technology beyond our scanners, another cried. That's impossible. Hierarch Zakar stood silently at the center of it all, staring at the growing list of lost worlds. His face had gone pale. They built something, he whispered. Something they were never meant to have. Far from any planet, the Erebus fleet moved like ghosts through the dark. Every ship was coated in adaptive armor that bent light around it. Their drives emitted no signal, their weapons made no sound. When they fired, there was no explosion, only absence. Energy lances designed to erase mass at the molecular level. No radiation, no heat, no warning. A council dreadnought the size of a city hung in space, its weapons blazing into the dark. Then a pulse of light. In a fraction of a second, half the ship was gone, sliced cleanly through the middle. The remaining half drifted silently, lifeless. No human shouted. No one cheered. They simply moved to the next target. Inside Erebus Prime, Captain Isaac Rains watched as another alien fleet was reduced to silence. Sector 12 secure, reported his officer. Rains nodded. Mark it. Move to next. He looked to the tactical display, hundreds of red dots turning black, one after another. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. Because deep down he understood what they were doing wasn't revenge anymore. It was extermination of a threat, precise, mathematical, final. And somewhere far behind them, on Earth, Admiral Holt watched every strike from her command chair, her face expressionless. Status of the Valari homeworld? She asked quietly. Defense is active, replied an aide. They're preparing for war. Holt's eyes narrowed. Then let's show them what war is. On the Valari homeworld, night fell under a crimson sky. The people looked up and saw hundreds of white trails descending, silent, glowing like falling stars. The first impact was not fire. It was light. A blinding white wave swept across the upper atmosphere. Shields collapsed instantly. Every orbital defense cannon shut down at once. Then came the second wave. It wasn't a bomb. It was a pulse, a perfectly tuned electromagnetic burst that shut down every machine on the planet. Ships fell from the sky. Cities went dark. And then, through the radio silence, a single voice echoed across every surviving comm system. This is for New Carthage. No one ever found out what weapon hit next. When the light faded, the Valari capital was gone, a crater 200 miles wide where it had once stood. The next day, the remaining council members sent messages to Earth, pleading for a ceasefire. Some offered peace. Some offered surrender. Earth responded once. Stand down. Withdraw from human space. Never touch our worlds again. No threats. No emotion. Just a statement of fact. Within hours, every council fleet retreated. Every banner lowered. The war was over, though no treaty was signed and no peace declared. Only silence remained. Weeks later, in the orbit of Mars, Admiral Holt stood alone in the observation deck of Erebus Prime. Stars glittered across the void. The Earth shone in the distance, small, fragile, beautiful. Captain Rains approached quietly. "It's done," he said. "They won't come again." Holt nodded. "No," she said softly. "They won't." She turned her gaze back to the stars. "But they'll remember." Rains followed her eyes. "Remember what?" Holt's voice was calm, almost a whisper. "That humanity doesn't start wars. We end them." For months, the galaxy whispered about what had happened. Worlds that had never feared anything now looked over their shoulders. The Volari Empire was gone, wiped clean from every star map. Their colonies burned, their fleets erased, their homeworld nothing but dust and glass. No one saw it happen. No one even recorded it. But everyone felt it. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Council was afraid. In the massive council hall, once filled with light and debate, the chamber was quiet. Seats that once belonged to proud species now sat empty. Flags had been removed. Even the air felt heavier, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Hierarch Zakhar's chair remained at the center, untouched. No one dared sit there. When someone spoke, it was barely above a whisper. "We must rebuild communication with Earth," said the Seraph delegate. "They destroyed one empire. If they see us as enemies next." The others didn't let him finish. "We agree," said the Karen representative, his scaled hands trembling. "We make peace. Whatever they want, we give." The council vote was unanimous. For the first time in history, no one voted against humanity. Across the stars, rumors grew into legends. Some said Earth had created living AIs that controlled invisible ships. Others claimed they had a planet-sized weapon hidden behind their moon. A few whispered that the humans had made a deal with death itself. That's why their enemies vanished without trace. No one knew the truth, because Earth never explained. The humans sent only one message across the galaxy: calm, polite, but unshakably final. The United Earth Confederation recognizes all existing borders. Any act of aggression toward human colonies will be met with permanent response. We do not seek war. But if war comes, we will end it. After that, the message repeated once every galactic cycle. And then, silence. Ambassador Claire Hoffman, one of the few surviving diplomats from Haven's Rest, stood on the balcony of the new human embassy on Luna Station. She looked out over the Earth rising in the distance, glowing blue and alive. It was peaceful now. But deep down, she knew that peace had been bought with something terrible. When she closed her eyes, she could still hear Katie Miller's last recorded transmission. "If they find me, tell Earth not to trust them. The Council is lying." That message had been the spark that started everything. One girl's courage had changed the fate of an entire species. Now every world knew her name. Katie Miller, the human envoy who uncovered the truth and paid the price. Statues were raised in her honor across the colonies. On Earth, children learned her story in school. And in the dark corners of alien space, her name was spoken with a kind of fear. In the quiet orbit of Titan, Admiral Serena Holt stood inside a new command room. Through the wide glass window, she watched the shadowed forms of the Erebus fleet, still patrolling silently between the moons. Captain Rains entered behind her. "Fleet's ready, ma'am. New orders." Holt didn't answer right away. Her eyes remained on the stars. Finally she said softly, "No. Not yet. Let them remember." He nodded. Everyone remembered what had happened to the Volari. Everyone remembered the day the humans stopped being the newcomers, and became the power the galaxy would never challenge again. A year later, the Galactic Council called for a new summit, one to restore unity. Every surviving empire sent their leaders. Every chair was filled. And then the great doors opened. 3 human representatives entered, calm, precise, and silent. Their uniforms bore no symbols of war. Only the silver insignia of Earth. The entire chamber rose to its feet. No one had told them to, they just did. The lead human, Admiral Holt herself, walked to the center and spoke in a low, measured voice. "We don't wish to rule. We don't wish to conquer. But if you want peace, then peace will be kept." No one argued. No one even looked her in the eye. And so, from that day on, the galaxy entered a new age. An age where war vanished not because of hope, but because of fear. They called it the era of Earth's silence. No one invaded another species again. No one dared to break a treaty. Because somewhere out there, in the dark between the stars, invisible ships waited, quiet and patient, watching. Back on Earth, children played under the open sky, free and safe. They didn't know about the fear that held the stars still. They only knew peace. But sometimes, when they looked up at night and saw the faint glimmer of distant lights moving silently through space, they wondered, were those ships watching them, or watching the galaxy? Narrator, final voiceover. They killed one human girl to keep their secrets. They thought humanity would mourn and move on. They were wrong. Earth didn't just retaliate. It rewrote the rules of the galaxy.